Good morning all. In the second series, we'll be talking about retail mix strategies. What are the elements of a retail mix? Like you must have studied about marketing mix in marketing. Similarly, when we talk of a retailer strategies, we refer to it as retail mix strategies. Now, what are the retail mix strategies or what are the elements of retail mix? The first very important element of a retail mix is location. Why is location so important for a retailer? In fact, the saying goes that the three most important things for a retailer are location, location, and location. Why do you think location is that important? Probably because location means both cost and revenue for a retailer. How is it that? Because location decides what cost you are going to incur as a retailer. If you are situated in a very premium location, in a very posh locality, the rentals are going to be really huge and therefore your costs are going to be very high. Also, if you are situated far from your wholesalers or from your suppliers or from your vendors, a lot of transportation costs are going to be there again, which is going to increase your costs. So cost element is very important and location influences what cost structure you're going to have. On the other hand, location also influences the kind of revenue that you're going to generate. How? Because your location is going to decide what kind of customers you're going to get, what kind of customer traffic is generated to your store, what are the number of walk-ins, what are the number of conversions. Now you might ask that walk-ins I understand, but how is conversion defined by location? See, if you are situated in the right location, if you're having the right kind of customers in the catchment area, by right kind of customers I mean the customers which are suited to your store or the customers who actually want to buy what is there in your store, then even the conversions are likely to be high. Otherwise, what might happen, there might be a lot of walk-ins in your store, but because the catchment or your neighborhood in which you are located has customers who might not be very directly related to your kind of merchandise, they might not buy those things. So that issue we'll discuss in merchandise assortment, but right now what we need to understand is that location is very important from the point of view of revenue, because it is the deciding factor which influences what kind of customer is going to come to your store, how many customers are going to come to your store. And therefore, location decisions need to be based on a lot of deliberations. There are a lot of factors which influence location decisions, like what is the accessibility to the location on which you're thinking of opening a store? What are the kind of commercial establishments there? Is it a commercial area? Is it a residential area? What is the kind of vehicular traffic that is there? What are the access routes that are available? All this is going to decide whether how easy it is going to be for the customer to reach your location or how difficult it is going to make the customer to reach your location. So this is why location decisions are very important, and these are several factors which help you decide for the right location. But look, one location might be right for one kind of store, but maybe not for the other kind of a store. So it depends on a lot on what kind of store you are. Are you a convenience goods store? Are you a shopping goods store? Or are you a specialty store? Because people might be willing to travel to some distance for a shopping goods, but they might not be willing to travel at all for convenience goods. So if you are dealing into convenience goods, you need to be located at a place very convenient to the customer. If you're dealing in shopping goods like let's say apparel or accessories, then the customer is willing to travel because the customer then needs a comparison between various products. So a lot of factors will actually help you decide which is going to be the right location for a store. So that's about location. Now we move on to the second element of the retail mix, that is merchandise assortment. Now what do we mean by merchandise assortment? It actually refers to what we say in the common language as the collection of merchandise that a retailer has. Now what do we mean by merchandise? You must have heard about the word product, but what do we mean by merchandise? Merchandise is actually referred to as the goods that a retailer has for sale. Now, what is merchandise assortment? Merchandise assortment is well defined or better explained by three main terms. One is variety, the second is assortment, and the third SKUs. If you understand these three, you'll be able to understand what we mean by merchandise assortment. Variety. Variety means the number of categories that a retailer has for sale. For example, let's say a shopper stop has menswear, they have women's wear, they have kids wear, they also have a footwear section, they also have a cosmetics items. So these are the various categories that they have. So they have a very broad variety of merchandise. On the contrary, Bata, for example, has a very narrow variety. It deals only in footwear. So it is just one category. This is what we mean by the variety of merchandise. That is, how many categories, how many different categories, or how many less categories does a retailer have. Now next, assortment. Assortment means the depth of the merchandise. How many different, let's say if we are dealing in a Van Heusen brand of shirts, how many different colors, sizes, styles of shirts do you have? That is what we mean by assortment. If you are dealing in men's formal shirts, how many different brands, different styles, different colors do you have? That will decide that how deep is your assortment. So a merchandise assortment is defined by the breadth or the variety and the depth of the assortment. That is how we define formats, and that is how we define merchandise assortment. Also very important is this term SKU, or stock keeping unit. What is a stock keeping unit? It is one unique item code. So for example, a Van Heusen shirt, size 40, white collared, full sleeve shirt is one SKU. Similarly, another blue full sleeved collared shirt, size 40 would be another SKU. So this is how we define an SKU. A typical 5 rupee Cadbury's milk chocolate is one SKU, and a 15 rupees Cadbury milk chocolate is another SKU. So it is one unique item code that a retailer decides to sell, and that is how inventory or stock can be kept. So these are the three terms that define merchandise assortment, and depending on what merchandise you are dealing in, you might be termed as a particular retailer dealing in apparel or accessories or footwear or electronics. Now we move on. We have discussed about two major retail mix strategies: location and merchandise assortment. Next, we move on to pricing. Now, as far as pricing is concerned, there are two extreme strategies that a retailer might follow. One is low pricing, high turnover. The other is high pricing, low turnover. In retail terms, we use two types of pricing strategies actually. We use two terms to reflect these pricing strategies. One is EDLP, that is everyday low pricing. Everyday low pricing, for example, Big Bazaar. Big Bazaar follows everyday low pricing, wherein you will get low prices on most of the items as compared to its competitors or other retailers. In fact, it used to claim also, isse sasta aur isse acha aur kahin nahi. That was a tagline at one time for Big Bazaar. That is what we mean by everyday low pricing. Then there is another strategy which is on the higher pricing side, which is known as high-low pricing. For example, many of the department stores like Lifestyle, Westside, Shoppers Stop, these will follow high-low pricing. High-low pricing is that majority of the time during the year, their prices will be on the higher sides. Their margins will be on the higher side. But during some parts of the year, for example, let's say on Holi or Diwali, on New Year, or let's say when the season is about to end, they will organize certain sales, off-season sales or festival sales, wherein their prices will be low. So there are alternative periods of high pricing and low pricing, and therefore it is termed as high-low pricing. So these are the two broad category of pricing strategies that usually retailers use. A midway might also be there, where there is medium price and medium turnover. A lot many retailers will be following that as well. So that is about the pricing. Next, communication. Communication is not very different from what a manufacturer does, but a retailer needs to communicate not only about the merchandise but also about its store, about its customer service. So what all needs to be communicated is important, and that is what makes a difference. Also, what is different is that a retailer not only does external communication through advertising or sales promotion, but it also does a lot of in-store promotions. Now, how do retailers do in-store promotions? You must have seen there might be a lot of danglers. There might be screens which are showcasing a lot of communication. There might be events that might be held, there might be shows which might be held inside a retail outlet. There are a lot of promos, offers, there are a lot of demos that are going on. This is all in-store promotions that are happening. So apart from the external communication that a retailer does, the retailer is also doing a lot of in-store promotions. And also, as we discussed earlier, that a retailer actually does a two-way communication. So on one hand, it is promoting the products or merchandise of the manufacturers. Also, on the other hand, it is taking a lot of feedback from the customers. So that is the communication part that's there. Next, we move on to the store design and display. The next is store design and display. Now, store design and display refers to how a store layout is placed. For example, if you see in Big Bazaar, there will be huge gondolas that will be placed. Basically, that's a kind of a grid structure where parallel racks are placed and a lot of merchandise is stuffed onto those racks. Because a convenience store has to be designed that way, because when a customer is shopping, they need to pick up as much merchandise, as much daily purchase items that they want. They want it at ease, that they don't want to spend much of time. So if the merchandise is widely dispersed, it will take a lot of time for them to find out the merchandise. That is why the layout of a grocery store will be very different from a layout of, let's say, an apparel store. So if you go to a Zara, or if you go to a Shoppers Stop, or if you go to a typical sword store, there the merchandise will be laid down in a very different way. The store layout will be in a very different way, because when a customer is shopping for apparel, the customer wants to look at apparel at ease, maybe browse for a while, think for a while that what is going to suit me or not, maybe also consult somebody who is accompanying you. So you need space to browse and do all that stuff. So therefore, the layout of an apparel store is going to be quite different. Also, the look and feel of the store decides or conveys a lot about the positioning of your store, about the mass market appeal or the premiumness of your store. So a retailer has to be very careful when a retailer is designing the store. There are two major decisions that need to be taken. One is the store layout, that is how the store is, what is the blueprint of the store, where the racks are laid down, where the seating arrangement is there, where the billing counter is there. So overall, how are things arranged within a store? That is what we refer to as the store layout. The second thing is the display part, or what we call as the visual merchandising. What is the look and feel that we get out of the merchandise that is being displayed? How is the merchandise being displayed? Is it being displayed in stacks? Is it being displayed on hangers, on shelves, on walls, utilizing the wall space? And how closely or how spacious the merchandise display arrangement is? How well the mannequins are being used, how the lighting is being used, how the show windows are being used. All this is a part of designing the store. So, and all these things actually decide or what customer experience the customer is going to have, because the customer experience is not only dependent on the kind of merchandise you are carrying, but also on the kind of ambience that your store reflects. In fact, a lot of researchers have actually proved that your ambience many times decides on how long a customer stays in your store. And the longer a customer stays in your store, the more are the chances of the customer spending more money, buying more things. So therefore, design has become a very important part of a retail mix strategy. And not only in physical stores, in today's context, when we talk of design, we also talk of the web design and layout of an online store. Because even for online stores, the store design and display part is very important. Yes, they're not physical stores, but even in online context, when you think you are browsing a website, you like a few websites because they are very easy to navigate, because they are very attractive, because it's very easy to find out information there, and you love maybe the design or the color combination or the fonts or the pictures or the graphics that are there on the websites. So these are all the elements, even in online context, which add to the overall customer experience. So that is what we mean by store design and display. So to sum it up, a retail mix strategy is essentially made of these elements, where location, merchandise assortment, pricing, communication, store design and display have a very important role to play. On the top of it, what comes is customer service. Because irrespective of how much good merchandise assortment you have, how much good store design you have, if you're not able to interact well with the customer, if you're not able to fulfill the needs of the customer, the special requests of the customer, probably the customer might go away disappointed. So customer service is the last but not the least a very important element of retail mix, because that is what the retailer is there for, to serve the customer. And different retailers might be having different ways of serving the customer, and each one needs to find their own way of personalizing and customizing their offers for the customer. So this is all about retail mix strategy.